Good Will Hunting is a 1997 film which captures its protagonist, Will Hunting, in a raw and manic presentation that underscores his inner conflicts. Will starts off as a janitor at MIT, but is discovered to be incredibly skilled at math. Will had discipline issues, consistently getting arrested for provoking police officers and getting into fights. Gerald Lambeau, a professor at MIT, offers to take Will in to live under his tutelage as long as he gets help from a therapist. Will accepts, and they burn through 5 therapists, which Will angers with his arrogant attitude and unwillingness to work through his own problems. They eventually settle with Sean McGuire, who, along with Will's other connections in life, slowly chip away at the psychological armor which binds him to a life of crime and missed opportunity. Will's situation is unique. He's a boy with a genius-level IQ who gets everything he wants in the academic world without challenge, but yet, that lack of challenge leads to his downfall. We learn that Will's parents assumed a very authoritarian role in his childhood, with his dad beating him with a wrench every time he fell out of line. This conditioning by his parents to quote-unquote fall in line whenever he tackles issues, combined with the comfort he feels in tackling complex computational problems, leads Will into a state in which he cannot and will not leave his comfort bubble to take on new risks as they come. Will copes with influences to take on new opportunities by shutting them out via defense mechanisms. The film really shows its psychological depth when Will's character traits are analyzed and picked apart, and each core character in Will's life breaks every defense down beautifully throughout the film in a way that's easy to tell to viewers of the film. Welcome to Good Will Hunting. Sigmund Freud's theory of personality split the self into 3 groups, one being the id, your desire for pleasure and instant gratification, another being the superego, the arbiter which acts purely on moral and logical reasoning, and the ego, the arbiter between these 2 unconscious parts of the psyche. But we're going to focus specifically on the ego, as this area of the brain is where Freud suggests a person's visible personality stems from. I bring this up because Will has a lot of opportunity in the movie that stems from his natural intellect. His guardian, Gerald, tries to find him high-profile jobs, and even though Will consciously knows that these opportunities are special and important to take, he needs to face the possibility of failure and take on the commitment needed to go into the workforce. There's one scene in which Gerald lands Will a job at the NSA. In the interview, Will is pinged with this question.
The question isn't, why should you work for the NSA? The question is, why shouldn't you?
This question provokes Will's ego, as he internally knows that he has no reason not to take the job, but his past trauma causes him to frame the question, why shouldn't you, as an accusation. If he were to reveal the true intentions of taking that risk, he'd give the game away. So with that, he defends himself with a long-winded explanation.
Bomb the village where the rebels are hiding. 1,500 people that I never met, never had no problem with get killed. Now the politicians are saying, send in the Marines to secure...
This defense is called rationalization, and it involves following a supposedly logical, self-justifying explanation to justify one's feelings, while hiding the true answer within the unconscious. Will uses this to hide his risk-averse personality, and instead focus on the worst case, as to deflect away from his true self. Sean, hearing about this, decides to challenge Will's deflection.
No, look, I didn't want the job.
It's not about the job. I don't care if you work for the government. But you can do anything you want. You are bound by nothing. What are you passionate about? What do you want? I mean, the guys who work their entire life laying bricks so their kids have a chance at the opportunities you have here.
We see Will carry out similar behavior when he's dating a girl named Skylar. Will loves Skylar and sees her as different from the other girls he's met.
I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Don't worry about me. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, but this girl's like, beautiful. She's smart. She's fun. It's different from most of the girls I've been with.
But despite his intense love for her, he's scared to death to push the relationship past dating. When Skylar brings up the possibility of the 2 of them traveling to California, he again uses a hypothetical crisis to rationalize his fear of commitment.
Because it's a really serious thing you're saying. I know you could be in California next week, and, you might find out something about me you don't like, and, maybe you wish you hadn't said that, but, it's such a serious thing that you can't take it back, and now I'm stuck in California. Someone doesn't really want to be with me, just wish they had a take back.
Skylar, picking up on his fear, decides to call him out.
What aren't you scared of? You live in this safe little world where no one challenges you, and you're scared do anything else.
Instead of facing the fear that Skylar laid out plainly for him, he instead pushes back harder. He sees her concern as patronizing.
Do I got a f***ing sign on my back that says save me?
No.
Do I look like I need that?
No!
This is projection. Projection means pushing one's own feelings on others. Will wants someone to free him from his pain and trauma, and the words save me make that clear. Will is imposing this on her, seemingly out of nowhere, because it mirrors his thought process at the time. He's also seen getting dangerously close to lashing out at her. The phenomenon, being known as displacement, ironically mirrors that of his youth. Will's father used to lash out at him to account for his own pain, and Will seems to be physical here as well under stress. Eventually, after an emotional breakdown, he sabotages the relationship.
I don't love you.
This highlights another one of Will's defense mechanisms, regression. In psychology, it means returning to a more comfortable state of being from an uncomfortable one. Given his fear of commitment, it makes a lot of sense that he would rely on this one. He denied the job at the NSA to get out of accepting that job, and killed his relationship with Skylar when he was stressing about committing to moving out somewhere. Will also uses regression in his relationship with his friends. He works on a construction site with his friend Chucky, and loves to hang out and carpool with him. One day at work, Chucky catches Will off guard by highlighting his underlying fear of commitment.
Hanging around here is a waste of your time. You don't know that.
I don't?
No, you don't know that.
Oh, I don't know that.
Let me tell you what I do know. Every day I come by your house and I pick you up. And we go out, we have a few drinks and a few laughs, and it's great. You know what the best part of my day is? It's for about 10 seconds from when I pull up to the curb when I get to your door. Because I think maybe I'll get up there and I'll knock on the door and you won't be there. No goodbye, no see you later, no nothing. Just left. I don't know much, but I know that.
Will uses the safety of his friends and working mundane jobs like that of the construction site to satisfy his ego and keep him in his comfort zone, so Chucky calling him out for continuously regressing back to this point is huge. In this scene, Chucky highlights the last key defense mechanism in Will's arsenal: denial. This mechanism is very self-explanatory, as it means denying a trauma which exists when it's revealed. Every character mentioned thus far has invoked this denial in Will. Sean, with his response to the NSA job, Skylar, in her response to moving to California, and finally, Chucky in his response with construction. But interestingly enough, this scene forces Will to take pause, reflect on himself, and understand why he's pushing back so hard. That moment of solace sets up for the most emotional point in this film, the "it's not your fault" scene. At the climax of the film, Sean explains his own traumatic past of being beaten by his parents, and Will finally connects this drama to a moment where his ego was disturbed.
Is that why I broke up with Skylar?
Sean points to the case file he holds of Will, and Will cycles through each defense mechanism he has, purging each one as it passes.
It's not your fault. Look at me, son. It's not your fault.
I know.
It's not your fault.
I know.
No, you don't. It's not your fault.
I know.
It's not your fault.
All right.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Don't f with me. It's not your fault.
Don't f with me, all right? Don't f with me, Sean. Not you.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
And with that, Will finally feels the relief of letting go of the trauma that held him down and forced him into denying his gifts. As the film goes on, it may be obvious to any given viewer what Will is going through, but the key to the impact of Will's story lies in how oblivious to his shortcomings he truly is. Everyone has things about themselves that they distaste, and most people likely know somebody who makes their ego very transparent, like Will. Will's trauma exists as an impetus for his fear of failure, but everyone has fears and weaknesses. These underlying fears stroke his ego, which, when threatened, brings out harsh defense mechanisms. The story is so relatable because of how much of Will is in each one of us. Even if some may be more insecure than others, it's worth checking your ego once in a while. You never know what you might be missing.